Hello, my name is John Nagowski. I will be doing my presentation on elderly and the disasters and how they affect the elderly. Over this presentation, we are going to discuss the actual definition of elderly, the vulnerabilities affecting the elderly, risk caused by poor emergency management, some long-term obstacles created by disasters. I'll give you some historical examples and try to give you some key emergency management strategies in assisting the elderly. First, let's define elderly. It's typically defined as 65 or older. It's better to think of elderly as a correlation between age and the likelihood of special needs that increase their frailty. Some of their vulnerabilities are on a physical level, their physical and mental health, their frail structure, their immobility, and visual and hearing impairments. Some social vulnerabilities, social and family connectedness, and most of them, not most of them, but some of them tend to live in isolation, which can definitely be a vulnerable situation. You've got economic vulnerability, which usually comes with lower type income, harder to kind of get a job, harder to get to and from a job, manual labor obviously, so making income is typically harder on the elderly. And the environmental, getting to and from work, getting to and from doctor's appointments, the lack of transportation is tough. They don't always have the ability to drive, and the lack of communication tools, whether that's through cell phones, social media, texting, however that works, it's sometimes leaves them vulnerable. Normally, the biggest risk that the elderly face during these emergencies is strictly a lack of plan by healthcare services and a lack of communication among these healthcare systems with community emergency managers. Many community emergency managers view nursing facilities as private institutions. The private market is responsible for their own preparedness strategies. Private markets are less likely to receive emergency assistance. Some of the post-disaster issues that we've seen with the elderly, some elders rely on meal service deliveries, which may not resume for a period of time after the disaster. Some of them live in comorbid conditions which require regular medication, equipment, and assistance. This can be tough if there's flooding or streets are down, roads are down, stuff like that. Health issues that are small are usually maintainable. They can escalate into a bigger physical issue without the proper medication, proper strategies, stuff like that to get them their medication on time. A few examples that we have of this in the United States, specifically Hurricane Katrina in 2005. At that time when Katrina hit, 71% of the population, of the elderly population, passed away when that disaster happened. And of that 70, there was 15% of the population were seniors, and 71% of that 15% ended up passing away from Katrina due to the flooding and some of the abilities to get to and from places, medication and stuff was unavailable. Another example overseas would be Japan's earthquake and tsunami in 2011. At that time, 25% of the population in the country at that time were 70 or older, and 90% of that 25% passed away from that disaster. Some important emergency strategies. Emergency managers must educate agencies who already serve the elderly population. Educating and training service providers on emergency preparedness at companies such as Meals on Wheels, home nursing companies, special needs transportation, life support equipment companies, retirement communities, and others. That kind of decreases these risks for the elderly. Emergency mornings, they must be redundant and they must be often. And the emergency managers must develop transportation strategies to go door to door to provide transportation and other basic necessities such as food or water or medication. Overall, a necessary element of emergency management is developing those strategies and training centered around the elderly, not just every American citizen or every citizen. That's my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Any questions you have, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.